What makes a row quilt so amazing?
We've got all of the details. Let us introduce you to your new favorite patterns.
Hi, it's Donna Robertson.
And Fran Morgan with Fabric Café.
We've told you before about how great row quilts are, but today we're taking a closer look at what makes them so great.
Now this is our Checkmate pattern. It is probably one of our go-to favorite row quilts that we've done. Now a row quilt, and Checkmate is no exception, has this great long strip of fabric for your focus fabric. It's going to really show off that focus fabric beautifully. Now we alternate that long strip with a pieced strip. In this case, we have 4 patch. 4 patches go together so quickly. And in this case, the only seams that you're having to match are right here when you put your 4 patches together. When you sew these 2 rows together, there's no seams to match, which makes it go so quick. Now you can make this row quilt in a day, this top, so easily. But fun fact, you can make all row quilts really simply. Why? Because you're not having to piece this row, just this row. So it kind of cuts it down to half as much piecing as you would normally do, which is super fast and it's going to go really great. Now let's get this Checkmate quilt on the table and check out the fabric. Now we have some pieces and parts for the Checkmate quilt, and we're going to show you how fast and easy this is to go together.
All right.
So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut a strip of fabric. Now this one has been cut to size, selvages are removed, and it's just one big long strip. And as you can see, this strip would be like this strip here on the quilt. So our alternate row, all we're going to do is make a strip assembly. Now we've cut a few pieces off of this one, but it's just the long strip, selvage to selvage, sewn together in a strip assembly. And then we are going to cut a little piece off of that. And we'll just keep cutting until we have multiples. And then, here's the second one. All we're doing, you can see that's exactly the same. We're just gonna give a little flippity flop here and make them alternating, and then we'll just continue building that row, alternating our colors to create that checkerboard. And you can see how we've just sewn a whole bunch of them together to give us our checkerboard. Is that not fun? Is that not simple? It is so easy.
I love this fabric together.
Yes. Now, let me give you a quick little hack, something else you can do. Now, you absolutely can cut these big strips to size. We do give you the size in the pattern. But you know what would be really fast? Do your checkerboard rows first, then you cut your strip, and before you cut selvages or anything, what you could do is sew this to this strip, just leave the selvage hanging over, same thing on that side. Then you could just trim this even so that it's exactly the perfect size. No measuring, just cut it, good to go.
That is a good hack.
Okay, we have this darling kit on the table that I can't wait to share with you.
I love it.
We have these wonderful forest animals in our #1 fabric, and we have deer. We have the mama and the daddy deer there. We have our raccoons, our squirrels. This is a great fabric for the Checkmate pattern because it's a nice size print. It's directional, which is going to work perfect in our #1 position. And you're really going to get to see all of these little animals in here, which I think is great. So this is our long strip. It's going to go here. Now for our #2 and 3 fabric, we kept with our kind of woodsy forest theme here. And I think that's kind of important, being consistent with like an aesthetic, which
kind of tells a story.
Yeah, your quilt tells a story. I love that. That's good. And I think with our checkerboard blocks, it can support a nice size print like this one is. It's more of a medium print, and it's going to look great. And then for our #3, we have a nice tone-on-tone green. Once again, it's going to go in our checkerboard where the black is here. And I like this because it's not exactly a solid, but it kind of reads as a solid.
Yeah.
It has those leaves on it, which continues our theme, but it gives you an anchor point. This is also going to go on the border, which is going to frame the quilt nicely. And you can see how our 2 and 3 work perfectly in that checkerboard pattern.
They do. Perfect sizing.
It is perfect sizing, and you still have your light and your dark so that it anchors it. And then that green frames it so beautifully. I also like the way the number 2 is those corner blocks. I think it just gives it a little extra interest. All right, this kit is called Fern Hollow, and it is our Checkmate pattern from Quilts for Kids.
Happy-Go-Lucky is a great quilt. It just screams happy. The center of these pinwheels are the only place that you have to match seams, and those flow together naturally. Now the rest of the piecing is simply strips. And a fun fact about row quilts is they're a great way for you to use up scrap fabrics. For instance, you could make each one of your pinwheels out of different scraps, or you could make each one of the strips of fabric out of different fabrics. And we have some great quilt photo examples that are made by our amazing quilters. So let's take a look at them. I want to show you some amazing quilts that came from our awesome quilters. Carrie alternated her pinwheel colors like I suggested at the quilt. She just used different colors for each one of her pinwheels, and I love that.
I love it, and it looks like those pinwheel colors picked up some of the colors from the focus fabric, which is perfect, Carrie.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And then Jackie made a twin size, and she used more than one focus fabric. So you can see how she alternated her different rows on this, and it just looks great. Then she kept the consistency with her pinwheels.
Yes, so clever.
So just a couple of clever ways, and we thank you for submitting those quilts. They're awesome. This is another one of those happy fabrics that has big flowers and little ladybugs.
Oh.
I like this.
And it's so brilliant. The jewel tones in the flowers on the black background are just so yummy. They're just rich.
Yes, they're gorgeous. And so that's going to be awesome in this particular row. So you can just imagine it, but we'll still show you an image. It is gorgeous. Now, for our number 2, now this is a little more a moody kind of a quilt. So we've got darker colors in this, but we have managed to keep that contrast between the 3 fabrics with our number 2, which will be your background here in this part of the pinwheels. And so that then allows you to use a 3rd fabric that is also a print, because it's going to keep it separated from the 2 larger prints. So this particular one really works well. Isn't that great?
I see it, and I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the number 2 is a little bit more, it reads like a solid, even though it's kind of a tone-on-tone polka dot.
Yeah, it just works perfectly in giving each of those focus fabrics their moment in the limelight.
In the pinwheel.
In the pinwheel, yeah. So it's a great way to show off 2 beautiful fabrics and then have that contrast create the background. And the name of this kit is Poppy Gala, and it's the Happy-Go-Lucky pattern from Quick and Easy 3-yard quilts.
Now, our Promenade quilt has some really fun extra things to it that I want to point out. First, of course, we have our row of fabric for our focus. And as you can see here, we have those long strips, just like all row quilts. Now, what we've done, though, is we've included a little bit of our focus fabric in our secondary row. And this is a great secondary row. It's pieced with 2 separate blocks. We have a rectangular block here, which creates that little lacy effect that's so cool. And then we have our star block here. And I love this because it kind of makes it look like eyelet lace going across the surface of your quilt, which I think is very, very cool. Now, fun fact on this, when you're sewing your rows together, and this applies to any row quilt, there are no seams when you're sewing this row to this row. Makes it super simple and a lot faster. The only thing you're focused on are these great star blocks in your secondary row. So we have our cropping tool here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to crop the 2 blocks that make up this row right here. So the first block is our star block. And I think the star block is just so much fun. So basically what we've done is we have our star in the center, then we have 2 small border pieces here that kind of border it to keep it going this way. And then our number 3 on the top and bottom start that line that kind of makes that lacy effect. It's very simple. The star is very simple to put together.
You might know this and you might not, but Fran and I do not necessarily design together. So it's always a big surprise to each of us when we see what the other has done. And I loved this quilt when I first saw it.
Thank you.
And of course, the first thing I did was, how did you do that?
And it's kind of, it took me just a minute, okay?
It's great.
So the star block is kind of fun, but we needed this top and bottom border here in our number 3. So when we put it with our alternate block, it created that edge for our lacy detail. Okay, I've got to get this just right here so you can see. Now what we've done here
So clever.
This is our alternate block here. And how this is made is we have a square in the very, very middle of our number 2 fabric. And then we have this block here, which is made with 4 half-square triangles. And you can see they're turned here. So here's our first 2 sewn side by side, kind of in flying geese style. And then we have this one here, which is made with our focus fabric in our number 3. And whenever you take this one, you're going to make it again and rotate it right down here for this side. Sew it on each side of that square, and it gives you this really cool block with these points on the end. Now, when you alternate these with our star block, it creates this little kind of lacy divot so that it makes it look like we have this eyelet lace right in the middle with a star.
It makes it look much more complicated than you made it. It's
really
great.
It's actually very, very simple, and I think it has such a dynamic look on the pattern because your eye is going, wow, how did you get that like that?
Yeah. Well, it's a dynamic row quilt because it does have so much movement in it.
But it's still just a row quilt. This is still one solid strip, which we know we love that because it's so easy and you're not having to piece blocks for every single row. It's just the alternate rows, which makes it a little faster.
That's awesome.
All right, let's look at this fabric because
Okay.
this is so, so sweet. And this is daisies and roses together in our blues and our yellows. Such a fun color combination, very classic, always loved.
Always love yellow
Always
and
loved,
blue.
yes. And this is a nice big print, and that will go where our focus fabric is here. Now, we have paired this with a number 2 that picks up all the light blues in our flowers, but offers us a lot of contrast. We need that in this particular quilt because we really want our stars to pop, but we still want it to coordinate really nicely with our focus fabric, which is awesome. And of course, our light blue goes everywhere you see the cream on this quilt. Then, once again, we've gotten lots of contrast for our number 3 fabric. It's a nice dark blue with some texture, and that is going to go here and on our points of our stars. We need that heavy contrast so that it really pops. It's a very subtle texture, so it reads like a solid a little bit, but give us that contrast, which is kind of what we need in this to really see that kind of lacy effect.
I love the contrast in this one because some quilts you don't necessarily need such high contrast, but this one, perfect.
I love
Perfect.
it. Now, we have an image for you on the screen, and you're going to see what I'm talking about.
Wow.
Wowzer.
I love the daisies.
I love the daisies, and I love how they pop through on the center of those stars as well. I think it gives a lot of continuity to the quilt, having the focus fabric in the middle of the stars. It is so much fun, and I love that it's the big print, and it really shows it off well. And we were talking about contrast, and this shows you how important it is in this case.
Yes, it really does
Yeah.
make it perfect in this quilt.
It's such a fun quilt. All right, the kit information on this quilt is Wildflower Serenade, and it is our Promenade pattern from the Make It Home with 3-Yard Quilts.
Now, Fascination is a fun row quilt to make. You have your regular strip of fabric, and then in the secondary row, we have 2 big blocks. One of them is a simple sashed block, and the other one is a simple star. Easy to piece, and it's the only place that you'll have to match any seams in this whole quilt. Now, a fun fact about row quilts, you can use directional fabrics. All you do is cut this long strip, and then you can rotate it whichever direction you need. You're going to love that. Now let's look at some great fabric. Now for this quilt, Fascination, we've picked out some really nice directional fabric that has lots of movement. And I think movement in that big strip is really important. You don't have a lot of pieced blocks. And when you have a big long strip like that, then you want lots of movement. And this fabric is so fun. It has all of these bright colors. And look, it has goldfish in metallic.
Like literally goldfish.
Yes. So that's going to have that little bit of a reflective quality that I like in a quilt as well.
Fun.
So that's going to go in your big strip here. It's directional, so it works perfectly in that big strip. And then for the number 2, we're kind of staying with that swirly motif in that number 1 fabric. We have a gold swirl that's going to mimic the gold in our goldfish and in our treasure chest. This is going to be one treasure of a quilt.
Yes.
And it also works perfectly in the stars. And then the number 3 fabric is this pink swirly, and it's a little bit different scale. So you've got this big scale, and then you've got a smaller scale. So it's going to be perfect for the background of your stars. And look how wonderful it looks with
Perfect
that.
match.
I
Perfect
love
pink.
that. You know, whenever you don't want your fabrics to clash, you want to keep a scale difference so that they're not like fighting with each other. They just kind of blend together.
So something I always try to teach is you get contrast not just from color, but from scale.
Yes, absolutely. And these are perfect for this quilt. Isn't it fantastic?
It is great. I love it. The fish are all swimming on those rows, and I love that gold metallic in those stars. It's just really shining.
And I love it because the fish in that strip looks like it's an aquarium.
Oh, it does.
Yes,
That is
it kind of
neat.
mimics it. Yeah.
That is so cool. It's like you're looking into the aquarium.
Right. I really like the way this one turned out. It's a fun, happy quilt,
Yes.
and I can see many people loving
Yes.
it. Now, the name of this kit is Fancy Fins, and it's the Fascination pattern from the magic of 3-yard quilts. Have you ever made a row quilt? What are your favorite things about them? Let us know in the comments.
And if you would like to see even more ideas for row quilts, be sure to watch the video that pops up. Happy quilting!